Hey, everyone, and welcome back to Minutes to Masterpieces,
The podcast.
the podcast that breaks down local government so you don't have to.
So you don't have to.
Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite platform so no one misses out
Yeah.
on our deep dives.
And spread the word.
Spread the word.
Back again for another deep dive.
We are.
And today we are going to be tackling the Kelowna City Council meetings from January 2024.
You know, when I first saw this stack of meeting minutes, I have to admit I was a bit intimidated.
Oh, yeah.
But once I started digging in, it became clear just how much these decisions affect your daily life here in Kelowna.
Absolutely. We're going to skip over all the bureaucratic jargon and really just focus on what matters to you, the stuff that shapes Kelowna's future.
Perfect. So one thing that really jumped out at me was the sheer amount of development being discussed.
Yeah.
It seems like Kelowna is in the middle of a major growth spurt.
It certainly is, and it's not just about the number of projects, it's about the types of development we're seeing.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of the applications are for townhomes, apartments, and duplexes.
Okay.
This suggests a move towards higher density housing, which could have a big impact on affordability down the road.
That makes sense. It's like the city is trying to fit more people into the same space.
Yeah.
But isn't that going to cause some tension? I mean, not everyone wants a high-rise in their backyard.
You're right, it's a delicate balance. We saw this play out in the public hearing for the proposed development on Linrick Road.
Oh, yeah, I read about that one.
Residents were raising concerns about increased traffic parking nightmares and even the potential impact on a nearby creek.
Yeah, that was a big one.
This project actually required changes to the official community plan,
Which is?
which is like the city's blueprint for growth to even be considered.
Wow.
Specifically, the changes involved rezoning, which means changing how the land can be used in that area.
So it's not just about building new structures.
Yeah.
It's about potentially reshaping entire neighborhoods.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important for residents to understand what's being proposed and to make their voices heard during the public consultation process.
For sure.
Another development that sparked debate was the rezoning application for 1660 and 1670 Bernard Avenue.
Okay.
They're looking to build a large apartment complex right on Bernard, which could significantly change the feel of that iconic street.
Bernard Avenue is like the heart of Kelowna, so any major development there is bound to get people talking.
You said it, but development wasn't the only hot topic on the council's agenda.
Oh, really? What else?
They also grappled with the issue of short-term rentals,
Ah, yes.
which is something that directly affects housing availability and affordability for everyone.
It's a tricky issue, right? On the
Yeah.
one hand, short-term rentals can bring in tourism dollars and provide income for homeowners. But on the other hand, they can drive up rents and make it harder for people to find long-term housing.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot regulations that allow for short-term rentals without exacerbating the housing crisis. It was interesting to see how passionate people were about this issue during these council meetings. In fact, 2 councilors had to recuse themselves from the vote
Wow.
because they had potential conflicts of interest, which shows how personally invested people are in this topic.
It's clear that the council is juggling a lot of competing priorities, but it's not all about development and regulations. They're also looking at long-term strategies, especially when it comes to climate change.
Yes. The Climate Resilient Kelowna strategy was a major focus in January.
Okay.
This is basically the city's roadmap to becoming more environmentally sustainable and adapting to the impacts of climate change.
So what does that look like in practice? Are we talking about solar panels on every rooftop and electric buses everywhere?
Well, it's a multifaceted plan,
Okay.
but what's really exciting is that the city is actively seeking input from residents to shape this strategy.
Interesting.
They're holding workshops, they're putting out surveys, and encouraging people to share their ideas and priorities.
So you're saying I could actually have a say in how Kelowna tackles climate change?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And it means you have a real opportunity to influence how Kelowna tackles climate change.
That's fantastic. It's great to see that the city's embracing citizen engagement and recognizing that we all have a role to play in building a more sustainable future. Speaking of sustainability, let's talk about something that's become a very visible symbol of change in Kelowna e-scooters.
Ah, yes. The e-scooters, love them or hate them, they're still zipping around town as part of the ongoing pilot program.
I see.
The council received an update on the program, and it seems like they're really using data to make informed decisions about how to integrate e-scooters into the cityscape safely and effectively.
So data-driven decision-making.
That's right.
I've heard they've made some tweaks based on feedback from both riders and, well, maybe people who aren't so enthusiastic about sharing the sidewalks with them.
That's right. They're not just relying on anecdotal evidence. They're actually looking at data from the RCMP,
Okay.
who have been tracking e-scooter-related incidents.
Oh, wow.
For example, there were reports of e-scooters being ridden in pedestrian zones and even some accidents involving cars. So the city is adjusting the rules and regulations accordingly.
So they're taking a data-driven approach to make the program safer for everyone.
Yeah,
It's like a real-life experiment in micro-mobility right in our own backyard.
exactly.
But it's not just about the big picture stuff. I was also struck by the individual contributions of the counselors. During these meetings, you could really get a sense of their personalities and priorities.
It's true. Those little moments often reveal a lot about what matters to them.
Yeah.
For instance, Councillor Singh, who was acting as deputy mayor for some of these meetings, seemed very focused on community engagement.
Almost so.
They were out there attending local events and really connecting with residents.
And then there's Counselor Lovegrove, who's clearly passionate about arts education and active transportation.
Yes, and those passions translated into action. They spoke about attending an early literacy event at Rutland Elementary, showing their commitment to supporting young readers. It's these individual initiatives that really make local government feel more personal and relatable.
It's a good reminder that behind all the official proceedings, these are real people who care about their community. And speaking of people who care, we can't forget about Mayor Dias.
Absolutely. He wasted no time in tackling the issue of invasive mussels,
Oh, right.
which pose a serious threat to the entire Okanagan Valley. He was actually working with other mayors and indigenous leaders to develop a regional strategy to address this problem.
So he's not just focused on Kelowna's immediate needs, but also looking at the bigger picture and collaborating with others to protect the entire region.
Exactly, and it shows how local leadership can have a ripple effect far beyond city limits. But with all this talk about growth development and new initiatives, it's easy to feel like you're just along for the ride as a citizen. So how can people actually get involved and have their voices heard? We'll dive into that in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Minutes to Masterpieces. Before we went to break, we were talking about how you can make your voice heard and shape the future of Kelowna. And you might be surprised to learn that it's not just about showing up at council meetings.
Right. Spill the tea.
All right.
What are these secret strategies for civic engagement? I'm all ears.
Well, remember that climate-resilient Kelowna strategy we talked about? That's a perfect example. The city genuinely wants your input on this.
Oh, okay.
They have a whole section on their website dedicated to this strategy with information about upcoming workshops, events, and even online surveys.
So you're saying I can actually have a say in how Kelowna tackles climate change from the comfort of my own couch. That's pretty convenient.
Exactly, and it's not just limited to the climate strategy. Many city projects have public consultation phases where you can voice your opinions, concerns, and suggestions directly to the people making the decisions.
Okay, but how do I know when these opportunities pop up? Do I need to, stalk the city's website every day?
Not at all. The City of Kelowna website has a fantastic notification system. You can sign up to receive email alerts about specific topics or projects that interest you.
No more excuses about not knowing what's going on. I love that.
And if you're more of a social butterfly, attending community meetings and workshops is a fantastic way to engage directly with city staff and your fellow residents.
It's like taking democracy offline and actually having face-to-face conversations about the things that matter to us.
Yeah.
I can dig it.
And never underestimate the power of good old-fashioned communication. You can reach out to your elected officials directly.
What, you mean like email or call our counselors?
You got it. And they genuinely want to hear from their constituents, and they rely on that feedback to understand the community's needs and concerns.
I guess it's easy to forget that these are real people representing us. It makes me feel a little more empowered knowing I can just reach out to them directly.
And if all that sounds a bit too formal for you, remember that civic engagement can take many forms. Volunteering with a local organization that aligns with your passions is a great way to contribute, whether you're interested in environmental protection, affordable housing, or promoting arts and culture. There's an organization out there doing amazing work.
So it's about finding your niche and using your skills and passion to make a difference.
Exactly. Even small actions can have a ripple effect and create positive change. Now, shifting gears a bit, another topic that came up frequently in the January meetings was infill housing.
Yeah.
It's a hot topic all over Canada, and Kelowna is no exception.
I've heard the term thrown around, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what it means. Can you break it down for us non-urban planning experts?
Of course, infill housing is essentially about developing underutilized or vacant land within existing neighborhoods. Think of those empty lots or older single-family homes that could be transformed into townhouses, duplexes, or even small apartment buildings.
So it's like filling in the gaps, creating more housing options within the existing city fabric?
Exactly, and it has some real advantages. It makes better use of existing infrastructure, reduces urban sprawl, and creates more walkable, vibrant, and connected communities.
Yeah.
But it also comes with challenges, as we saw with the Limerick Road development. Not everyone welcomes change, especially when it comes to their neighborhoods.
People can be very attached to the character of their neighborhood and how it looks and feels.
Absolutely, and that's why public consultation and community engagement are crucial for infill housing projects. It's about finding ways to integrate new development thoughtfully and sensitively while addressing the concerns of existing residents.
It's like walking a tightrope between progress and preserving the things that make a community unique. But speaking of change and new developments, we can't forget about the e-scooters. It seems like they've become a permanent fixture in Kelowna. But how is the city making sure this new mode of transportation is actually safe and responsible?
Well, remember, the e-scooter program is still in its pilot phase. This means they're collecting tons of data, watching usage patterns, and evaluating how e-scooters are impacting everything from traffic flow to pedestrian safety.
So they're basically treating Kelowna like a giant e-scooter laboratory.
Pretty much. And they're not just relying on their own observations, they're gathering feedback from the community and even working closely with the RCMP, who have been tracking all those e-scooter-related incidents. For instance, they found that people were riding e-scooters in pedestrian zones, which obviously creates safety concerns, so they're working on stricter regulations to address those issues.
It sounds like they're constantly tweaking and adjusting the program based on real-world feedback. It's great that they're taking a data-driven approach rather
Yeah.
than just winging it.
It definitely shows a commitment to making sure this new form of transportation integrates well with the existing cityscape. But let's not forget that all these initiatives, all this progress requires funding. We need to talk about the city's finances, the money that makes all this possible.
That's a good point. Where does all that money come from and where is it all going?
Well, on the revenue side, we saw the council approving various grants in January, which brought in a significant amount of funding. One notable example was a grant from the Childcare BC New Spaces Fund, which will provide over $25 million to help create new childcare spaces in Kelowna.
Wow, that's a huge investment in families and the future of Kelowna.
It really is, and it reflects the city's commitment to creating a supportive environment for families and children. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. The city also allocates funds to other crucial areas like affordable housing projects, transportation improvements, and public safety programs. They even approved a significant investment in upgrading Kelowna's water infrastructure, which is essential for a growing city.
It's amazing to see how much careful planning and financial management goes into keeping a city running smoothly. It's like a giant machine with all these interconnected parts working together.
That's a great analogy, and it highlights the importance of civic engagement. You, as residents, have a right to understand where your tax dollars are going and how they're being used to improve your city.
It all comes full circle, doesn't it? From understanding city council decisions to actively participating in shaping Kelowna's future.
Exactly. Informed citizens are empowered citizens, and that empowerment is key to building a thriving community. Stay tuned for part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll explore some of the overarching themes and takeaways from these January meetings.
And we're back for the final part
Of our deep dive
of our deep dive
into
those January 2024
Kelowna City Council.
Kelowna City Council meetings.
Yeah.
As we've been going through all these discussions, one theme that keeps popping up is this idea of balance.
That's a great observation. It seems like the council is constantly trying to find that sweet spot between progress and preservation, between embracing the future while honoring the things that make Kelowna unique.
It's like they're walking a tightrope, right? They want to encourage growth and development, but they also want to protect the natural beauty, the small town charm, the character of the community.
Exactly. We saw this tension play out in so many of the discussions we've talked about. Think about the short-term rental debate. On the one hand, you have the potential economic benefits of tourism and the rights of homeowners to use their property as they see fit. But on the other hand, you have concerns about housing affordability, neighborhood stability, and the potential for things to get a little too touristy.
Right, if you know what I mean.
It's like trying to find that Goldilocks zone, not too much,
Wow.
not too little, just the right amount of change to keep Kelowna thriving without losing its soul.
And it's not just about short-term rentals. We saw this balancing act happening with
Yeah.
development proposals, too.
Yeah.
The council has to weigh the benefits of new housing, new businesses, economic growth against the potential impact on existing neighborhoods, traffic, and the environment. It's a complex equation with no easy answers.
For sure.
And it's not just about numbers and data either.
Mm.
We have to remember that these decisions affect real people's lives.
Mm.
People have emotional attachments to their homes, their neighborhoods, and their vision of what Kelowna should be.
You're absolutely right, and that's why public consultation and community engagement are so vital throughout these January meetings. It was clear that the council is genuinely committed to listening to residents' concerns and taking their feedback into account. They're holding public hearings, conducting online surveys, and creating opportunities for people to share their perspectives.
So it's not just a one-way street. It's a dialogue, a collaboration between the city and its citizens to shape the future of Kelowna together.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about local government. It's where the rubber meets the road, where those big picture ideas translate into tangible actions that affect your everyday life.
And that's why it's so important for all of us to stay informed, stay engaged, and make our voices heard, whether it's attending a council meeting, writing to your counselor, or participating in a public consultation process. Every voice matters.
Couldn't have said it better myself. As Kelowna continues to grow and evolve, it's up to all of us to ensure that progress happens in a way that benefits everyone and respects the unique character of this amazing city.
So that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Kelowna City Council meetings from January 2024. We hope you found this journey informative, engaging, and maybe even a little inspiring.
And remember, this is just a snapshot of what's happening in your city. There's always more to explore, more to learn, and more opportunities to get involved. So stay curious, stay engaged, and stay tuned for future episodes of Minutes to Masterpieces, where we'll continue to unpack the inner workings of local government and empower you to shape your community.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about the podcast so they can join us on these deep dives too. Until next time, keep those minutes coming, and we'll keep transforming them into masterpieces of understanding of